Ladies and gentlemen, session 3 will start very soon, but before that, I would like to make one announcement. Somebody has left her phone, this cute little phone. Does anybody recognize it? Somebody left her phone? Anybody? Okay, so I guess, okay, so we will keep this at the reception. So if anyone knows of anyone who's lost his or her phone, it will be at the reception. May I ask all the panelists for the next session to come on stage? We will shortly begin session 3. We all hope that you had a nice coffee break. Well, session 3 will focus on strengthening capacities for sustainable development of cultural tourism. This session will discuss capacity building programs designed to meet the market demands and the needs in cultural tourism, which also showcasing the initiatives from the private and public sectors, the academia, and the role of new technologies in these efforts. Now, I'd like to invite the moderator to the stage. Here's Mr. Ahmed Eweda, Global Coordinator for Cultural Heritage and Sustainable Tourism of the World Bank.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back on time. We promise a very exciting session now on capacity building and institutions, what is needed. We heard today so many ideas, so many good recommendations. This session now will tell us on how we can implement such great initiatives, great ideas, and what capacity building needed at all levels, from national level, local level, non-governmental organizations, and what role can academia, NGOs, civil society, private sector can play, and what public-private partnership can play, role they can play. So we will structure our discussion today around 3 building blocks, if you will. The first one is on actions of today to safeguard tomorrow. So we will look at needed capacity building programs to ensure that the tourism of today safeguards and promotes the cultural expressions for tomorrow and also promote contemporary expressions. The second building block by our distinguished panelists today, we will discuss the digital age opportunities, tools, and innovation. We'll also talk about partnerships and cultural and creative industries. How can all these aspects play together to produce additional tourism products, to diversify the tourism products we have, and what capacity is needed to, along all of these aspects, to ensure that the local community is in the heart of the development. Local community is in the heart of benefits from cultural tourism. The third one aspect we will talk about is what tools, when you talk about capacity building, what tools, toolkits, and curriculum we have now available. We work so much in silos. So how can we enhance our partnership, global knowledge sharing for both cultural tourism and cultural roots in transnational manner for networks and partnership? So what is new in this session is you. In this session, we will come back to you so many times to share your insights, to share your initiatives, to share your views, ideas, innovation. We would like to hear from you. So as a moderator, I will come back to you several times throughout the session, not only in the last 5 minutes. So please be prepared with your questions and interventions and be very short in your, in your ideas. We would like to conclude these sessions with, I will try to take notes as you talk, as the panelists talk. I'll try to take notes to see what really innovative ideas of paradigm shift that we can adopt in this concluding session that we can all adopt and take away home with us. So I'm really honored to be moderating a session with such distinguished and prominent global and national figures who will present to us very diversified views and ideas and initiatives from academia, public sector, international organizations, technology companies, counselors. So if I may introduce our distinguished panelists, I'll start with Mr. Koichiro Matsura, UNESCO former Director General. Ms. Maria Fonta, Google Country Marketing Manager for Greece, Romania, and Ukraine. Mr. Xavier Marcier, Barcelona City Councilor for Tourism and Creative Industries. Ms. Madeleine Burns, Peru, National Director of Tourism Training Center, Confitur. And Mr. Stefano Domenini, Council of Europe, Executive Secretary and Director of Enlarged Partial Agreement of Cultural Roots, EPA, and European Institute Cultural Roots. So I will start today by inviting Mr. Matsura. Please come to the podium, or you sit it as you wish. Okay. As you wish.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today. If I may, I recall the last occasion I was here. It was 7 years ago when UNESCO organized the 40th anniversary meeting commemorating the 40th anniversary of UNESCO World Heritage Convention. That was adopted back in 1972. I don't have to tell you what the convention is. I was already back in Japan, but I was invited as one of the main speakers. We certainly focus on World Heritage sites, how to preserve them, what kind of responsibilities of global and local communities, etc. But nevertheless, we focused on cultural heritage, in particular, intangible cultural heritage. There, we did adopt what is called the Kyoto Declaration, focused on how to preserve cultural heritage, in particular, tangible cultural heritage. But I'm very happy to be back here. Now, we are focusing on culture and tourism combined. This is a very important theme. And if I may, I would like to recall the basic conclusion of Kyoto Declaration adopted on that occasion. That is to say, how should humanity preserve cultural heritage? We emphasize in the Kyoto Declaration the main responsibility lies with the local community. I'm very sure in the context of culture and tourism, or in the context of cultural tourism, basically we will reach the same conclusion. Nevertheless, I would like to elaborate a little bit on what we should do in the context of preserving cultural heritage and developing a new culture, making contribution to tourism. I have to tell tourism has become a very important industry globally, but it has become a very important industry for Japan as well. We are now receiving more than 30 million visitors to Japan, and their main interest is to enjoy Japan, but to enjoy Japanese culture. Therefore, it is very important on the part of Japanese people to make serious efforts to preserve cultural heritage and to make new or create cultural expressions based on such cultural heritage. In that context, I would like to mention, though I don't like to elaborate on this convention, UNESCO has adopted 5 important conventions, including the World Heritage Convention, with regard to safeguarding cultural heritage, including the new one adopted back in 2003. When I was Director General of UNESCO, I advocated we have to focus on intangible cultural heritage, like traditional dances, etc., etc., in addition to preserving traditional monuments and traditional buildings, which is the main purpose of World Heritage Convention. UNESCO now has 5 international conventions in that regard. I do hope these conventions will be ratified by as many as countries in the world, and in addition, tourists, including foreign tourists, study these conventions. And I said many foreign tourists come to Japan to enjoy Japanese culture, but I do hope these tourists will study before they come to Japan what kind of culture Japan has, what kind of traditional culture Japan has, what kind of traditional cultural heritage Japan has. Whenever I give a speech or a lecture to Japanese who want to go abroad, I tell them, you must study the history of the countries you'll be visiting. You must study the traditional culture of the countries you are visiting. I think vice versa applies to those foreigners who will come to Japan. Of course, in the context of the education system, these 5 conventions must be taught very carefully so that those people who when they are grown up, want to visit foreign countries, they will once again study the history of these countries, culture of these countries, on the basis of these 5 UNESCO conventions. But I would like to add, that's not enough. It is important to create new cultures, but based on cultural heritage. And there's a very important convention adopted back in 2005, and I would also argue there is a new system based on or created by the UNESCO General Conference back in 2003 with regard to establishing the international network of creative cities. So I repeat, on the basis of cultural heritage, new cultures or new cultural expressions must be created. And the main target of humanity in that context is preserve cultural diversity and promote cultural diversity. I'm very happy in the context of the new SDGs adopted back in 2015, targeting at 2030. There is a goal for on education, but in that context, there is a specific clause stressing the importance of preserving and promoting cultural diversity. So when we say promoting, preserving, and promoting cultural diversity, that means we have to preserve traditional cultural heritage, but also we have to create new cultural expressions based on traditional cultural heritage. And I repeat, in the context of the education system, those things must be taught. And in that context, it is very important that UNESCO's associated school system has become very popular. Now there are more than 10,000 schools that cooperate, that registered as UNESCO associated schools. We say ASP, and there are more than 1,000 such UNESCO schools in Japan, and their main target at UNESCO school is focus on what is called ESD, Education for Sustainable Development. That is once again included in Goal 4 of SDG. So it is very, very important to teach the importance of SDG, in particular in the context of Goal 4, not only stressing the importance of education, but also stressing the importance of preserving and promoting cultural diversity as Goal 4 of the SDGs indicate. And I must mention in this context, it is also very crucial for adults to continue learning after they have graduated from the education system. And there, UNESCO used the terminology of lifelong learning. And in fact, I am back in Japan 10 years ago. I, of course, give a lot of speeches, a lot of lectures, but I continue to learn. In fact, I'm learning a lot of things, if I may, every day. It's very, very important, to continue lifelong learning after you have completed the traditional education system. So I repeat, with regard to cultural tourism, of course, the main components are adults. Therefore, they must continue to learn before they embark on visiting foreign countries to enjoy their culture. They have to first learn, and they have to appreciate when they come to their countries, come to their destinations, and that is very, very important. So in that context, I do hope a lot of important concrete points will be raised by my colleagues, but I hope these points will be mentioned in the new Kyoto Declaration to be adopted. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matsura, and it's quite refreshing to remind all of us about UNESCO conventions and the strong message about lifelong learning and the Japan initiatives of UNESCO schools. Thank you very much, Mr. Matsura. Our next presenter is Ms. Maria Fonta, and she shift the gear a little bit to talk about disruptive technology, sharing economy, and what capacity building technology associated with technology can be done to benefit local communities. Maria, please.
Thank you very much. Minasan konnichiwa. So let me start by saying it's really a great pleasure and honor to be here with you today. A very warm thank you to UNWTO, to UNESCO, and to Japan for hosting us in this beautiful city and in this great conference. So in the next few minutes, I want to talk to you about a program that we have been running in Greece, which is where I come from, and most recently also here in Japan to help support the tourism sector. But let me start with how it all started. So in Greece, tourism sector is the backbone of the economy. However, it's still not fully benefiting from technology. And there is a recent study by Oxford Economics that says that if Greece increases its tourism-related online content, then it can create up to 170,000 new jobs and grow its GDP by 4%. So seeing this great opportunity for growth, 4 years ago, we launched this initiative that we call Grow Greek Tourism Online. And this is an initiative that aims to help tourism businesses, small, medium tourism businesses, with digital skills, free digital skills training and tools to grow faster. And so we're doing this with the support and under the auspices of the Ministry of Tourism, of the Greek National Tourism Organization, and of the Association of Tourism Enterprises. And we're very happy to say that in the last 5 years that we have been running this initiative, we have trained in digital skills more than 120,000 people all over the country. And these are people of all ages and backgrounds, including women. 52% of them are actually women, to grow their business or career in in the tourism sector. So how we do this? We do this through 3 key pillars. The first is that we launched an online training platform offering for free digital skills for the tourism sector. It's accessible to anyone that wants to get this training at any point in time. The second thing that we did is that we wanted to be closer to more businesses and spend more time with them. So we launched a face-to-face training roadshow, and our team has been in more than 100 cities and villages all over the country and the islands, offering free face-to-face consultations with businesses that ask us to do that. And the third and important pillar, the most recent one, is that we expanded in the area of education, and in partnership with more than 40 universities, we have been training students, the future travel professionals, in digital skills. And as I said, so far, we've trained 120,000 people in digital skills, but it's not really about the skills, right? It's what people do with these skills. And in our case, 68% of the businesses have told us that the training has helped them to see specific business results, such as more visitors on their website or on their physical store. And I want to take a short moment here to show you a film of one such case. It's actually a film of a village. There's a village called Roka, and that is, it used to be a deserted village in the mountains of Crete, and which is an island in the south of Greece. And the locals there, because their village was deserted and empty, they came up with the idea of starting a yearly summer festival to celebrate local culture, and this way bring people back to the village. And so with training from our program, we were able to help them better promote their initiatives online, promote their businesses, but also use tools such as YouTube livestream to live stream the main event of their festival so that more people around the world can join in and celebrate together. Can we show the video, please? Thank you.
Βρισκόμαστε στη Ρόκα, στην Κίσα Μουχανίων. Τι κάνετε, καλά? Τα παιδικά μας χρόνια ήταν πολύ ωραία. Ήταν όμως και μοναχικά. Περιμέναμε το καλοκαίρι, γιατί το καλοκαίρι γέμιζε το χωριό με παιδιά. Εδώ παίζαμε Έχεις καφαλόρα με στο Παρίσι. Η αγωνία των γονέων ήταν να σπουδάσουν τα παιδιά για να ζήσουν μια καλύτερη ζωή μακριά από το χωριό.
Κάπως έτσι ερήμωσαν τα χωριά μας. Γιατί τα χωριά δεν είναι τα δέντρα και τα σπίτια, είναι οι άνθρωποι.
Θυμάμαι όταν έκλεισε το καφενείο, οι ηλικιωμένοι της περιοχής έπαθαν μαζική κατάθλιψη. Το καφενείο ήταν τα social media της εποχής. Έπρεπε να σκεφτούμε κάτι για να φέρουμε πίσω τον κόσμο. Γύρισα με μια ιδέα. Οι αρχαιολογικοί χώροι στην Αυγουστιάτικη Πανσέλινο είναι ανοιχτοί. Ακουγόταν τρελό, αλλά σκεφτήκαμε να φέρουμε μια ολόκληρη συμφωνική ορχήστρα στο λόφο με τα αρχαία στην Πανσέλινο του Αυγούστου. Στην αρχή υπήρχε μια επιφυλακτικότητα, αλλά σιγά σιγά όλοι οι χωριανοί αγάπησαν και αγκάλιασαν αυτή την ιδέα. Κάθε Αύγουστο οι γιορτές Ρόκας γίνονται μεγαλύτερες.
Φέτος δημιουργήσαμε σκηνές για θεατρικές παραστάσεις σε αυλές, μπαλκόνια, δρόμους, σε όλο το χωριό. Βοήθησε και το ίντερνετ βέβαια. Μάθαμε πώς να το διαδώσουμε.
Τα σπίτια άνοιξαν ξανά. Νέες επιχειρήσεις λειτουργούν. Και έχουμε και ένα νέο καφενείο του πολιτιστικού μας λόγου. Όλοι στο χωριό νιώθουν τις γιορτές Ρόκας ότι είναι δικές τους. Είναι χαρακτηριστικό ότι κάθε χρόνο μια γιαγιά έρχεται, μου δίνει 50 ευρώ διακριτικά στο χέρι και μου λέει πάρε Παναγιώτη μου αυτά έχω και είναι για τις γιορτές Ρόκας. Με τη βοήθεια της τεχνολογίας μπορεί κάποιος να επιστρέψει στον τόπο του και να καταφέρει πράγματα.
Τώρα, παιδιά, με το live streaming θα μας βλέπουν σε όλο τον κόσμο.
Το χωριό μας, στο παρελθόν, ήταν μία κουκίδα στο χάρτη. Τώρα πια το χωριό ζει. Ξαναζεί. Βγήκε καλό.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would like now to talk to you a little bit about the work we have also been doing here in Japan to support businesses and people through our local Grow with Google initiative. And this is an initiative that was launched in April this year, aiming to train for free in digital skills 10 million people by 2022. And we're happy to be doing this with the support of more than 80 local partners, including local government and municipalities. So as we go about this work here in Japan, we also know that 2020 is a big moment for the country. We know that the tourism sector is expected to keep growing substantially. However, also here, many tourism businesses don't have the digital skills to make the most of this opportunity. So with this context in mind, we launched in October this year, we launched also here an initiative to support the tourism sector. It sits under our broader Grow with Google initiative. And our goal is, again, to support tourism businesses to have a better presence online, but also use digital tools to attract and better serve foreign travelers. And we're very happy to say that this has the official endorsement and the support of the Japan Tourism Agency. So we do this again in two ways. We have an online training platform for digital skills in Japanese for the tourism sector, and we also have launched a face-to-face training roadshow. Our roadshow started in the region of Okinawa in partnership with the Okinawa Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we plan to bring this in all 47 prefectures of the country to help all of Japan prepare for and grow during 2020 and beyond. So we're very encouraged by the results of these programs, and we're really looking forward to working with more people, more partners and local communities to help as many tourism businesses as possible to grow through technology. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maria. It's a very good reminder of people-centered approaches. That's the purpose of our capacity building, is skills, is investing in people. That's exactly the purpose of this session. Very interesting initiatives about how you invest in people, both their arts, crafts, but also the creative industries, gastronomy, and other aspects. And that's a very good leeway to the next presentation by Xavier, who will share with us Barcelona's experience in supporting creative industries for multiple purposes. A is to diversify tourism products. You know, everybody goes to the same places in Barcelona, but by supporting creative industries, you can create and disperse tourists into new aspects. And it also offers the experience we are talking about. So we'll hear now about what capacity building is needed and what is Barcelona initiative in this regard. Xavier, please, the floor is yours.
Sorry, Ahmed, for put the translator is.
It will start by itself. Just wait.
Okay. Good morning. It's a pleasure to have been invited to participate in this meeting to discuss the relationship between tourism and culture. I think it's a transcendent question that will define the future of world tourism, especially for cities like Barcelona, with a social debate about the problems of over-tourism. Now, with your permission, I will continue in Spanish. If you take the translators, we can follow better my words. Hoy en día, muchas ciudades europeas deben afrontar de calidad de vida que se refleja en sus propuestas gastronómicas, en su oferta de ocio y en un sistema de transporte.
We have the intangible culture, and there are something related to the system, and the very efficient transportation system. And in many European countries, the transportation, well, we are able to get access easily and cheaply. That is one of the reasons that the visitors are coming into the city. Because of that, the investment in sightseeing will proceed. It's a new phenomenon, but I think that the progress depends on the cities, London, Paris, and Berlin. They are using good technology to manage those big inflow. London is a financial capital of the world, and the major part of the city is not residential, meant for the residential. And by tourism, by social development, the city developed. However, in Barcelona and Amsterdam, is rather small city. It is not the financial city. So using social engineering, they are trying to develop tourism in the city so that the tourism heritage is centered in the center of the city so that visitors can concentrate in a very small area, small part of the city that gives a big impact to the living of the people, residents. Well, the residential part, evading away, running away from the center. So it's a kind of a saturation of tourism, which becomes a very important issue for the city. Now, looking at the data from now, well, the area of Barcelona is 100 kilometer, and 1.6 million living there, and 30 million visitors are visiting the city, and 20 million stays in Barcelona. And in the periphery of the Barcelona city, there are in a 25 square kilometer area, the tourism concentrates, and the residential area is in the periphery. And 20% of the Barcelona, of the Barcelona city residents thinks it's a critical situation, and 50% of the people thinks that we have to change the tourism model. Currently, we have such problem. It's obvious. For example, the value of the house increase, and responsibility of the housing is diminished, and there are some lodging accommodation facility which are not meeting a legal requirement, and the standard concerning the commercial is not established, so that the life of the citizens are threatened and environmental degradation occurs. And currently, in university and many organizations are now the income source of the city. For example, holding the Congress and putting up a festival, which is a source of the sightseeing, and 18% of a total city budget. And I think this 18s are coming from tourism. But because of those issues, there are social issues. And because of that, governmental organizations are trying to take many measures to respond to them. So how we are able to securing the economic benefit, at the same time solving the social conflict and preventing the negative impact to the infrastructure of the city. For example, environmental problem and the low-income people protection socially is important. And in addition, there are more complex issues. For example, moving Sagrada Familia to somewhere else, or relocating some of the facility or the Main Street cannot be moved to somewhere else, and the center of the city cannot be relocated to somewhere else. Obviously, then how we are able to solve the current issues? What I said is all impossible. So how we are able to redistribute and disperse that over tourism and create some attraction, something new? Then we have to use the digital technology. By that, we were able to create a dispersed tourist cities. So I think it is necessary to have a creative industry. For example, well, there are many industry sectors, and using the technology and creativity, each industry sector can create a new attraction of the tourism, not only depending on the traditional economy, but giving rise to a new value of industry. So the kind of gastronomy, gaming industry, to name a few. So by combining those new technology, we are able to create a hybrid industry. For example, publishing and audiovisual industry combination. That's a new, idea of industry. So in order to promote the tourism, the tool is not just using the tourist center, and perhaps we were able to develop something new, and not just that, we are able to transform the tourist industry. In Barcelona, in a local shopping area, are creating some shopping malls, and that is a good income source. And in Barcelona, there are many shopping districts, the food stores, textile stores, the small shops around. And to maintain those shops would, I think, retaining the competitiveness of the area. And also there is new Amazon platform companies. So to those new platform industries, in order to protect the local shops against that big Amazon center, we need to maintain the existing economic platform so that maybe we are supporting the new startups and also the cultural industry based on our experience. And the creative industry means they are necessary to create a new balance, then the new cultural offer will be generated. those new creative industry must be taken in, then we are able to attract yet a new inflow of overseas visitors. Music, the theater, well, they're new creative industry to be promoted. And when I say creative industry, they have a risk of failure, of course, but don't need to be concerned too much. I think we have to risk such a kind of concern even to bet for future development. And then I think by linking a new industry to the existing one is necessary, but creating new ecosystem. Well, Barcelona can pose and attract new visitors as a new potentially growing city. Well, currently in a traditional industry, well, there are very high rate of tourism, yes, but in order to break away those existing schemes, we need to create a new tourist spot, creating new value added. Well, the process that Barcelona is experiencing is very important experience. What we are trying to do is to supplement the negative impact of the tourism and creating new positive aspect of the tourism. And we need to respond to the digital economy demand. And also, well, new R&D or new social development must be led from the tourism. Well, Barcelona has trade affairs and the Congress held. For example, for communication, we have a mobile Congress held, and music festivals, or the festival called the Sona, which is electronic musical instrument concert. So, well, by investing into those new area, Barcelona has potential of a new development. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Xavier. Great initiatives, and I'm sure there will be so many questions from the audience about your ideas about managing over tourism and the creative industries. The next speaker will, Madeleine, will then tell us about educational programs, curriculum, and how we can actually do the capacity building programs across the spectrum. Madeleine, please.
Muy buenos días. Les voy a dar tiempo para ponerse los audífonos. Good morning. First of all, UNESCO, UNWTO, who invited us. Thank you very much. Together with the UNWTO, we have conducted many researches, Latin America and Peru, about the human resources. And the Senfotur is our organization. This is an educational center located in Peru and belong to the Ministry of Trade in Peru. And against the 20,000 target population, we provide education. The people from tourism, or some are lacking the education, then we try to provide appropriate education for them. In Peru, of course, Machu Picchu and Cusco and wonderful places are there, but there are other sightseeing sites. So we want to introduce them. And also the human resource, the trainings in the tourism is also essential, and that's a part of our activity. And we were said to be very competitive, but not really. And we have to strengthen our trainings and education of the human resources. We conducted a study. Untitled, they joined together with us and conducted a study. In Latin America, what is going on? The tourism industry is expanding, developing, and 1 in 10 jobs are from the tourism industry. In South America, there is a growth of 7% in tourism, and the Caribbean areas, 4% growth. So tourism in this region is indeed very important. Not only in Latin America, but also the people from other continents come to us. And Mexico, Brazil, they are the 15 million tourism jobs. This is top 10 among the world. And what is trainings and education? I think there is some constraint and limit. And as for income, compared with other industry, the income in tourism is rather low compared with the national average. In tourism, there are many job opportunities, and the female workers and the young workers are there. And also the rural communities, we can provide the jobs. But compared with other industry, in terms of the income, there is a disadvantages. And the trainings and well-educated human resources are necessary in this sector. And what we are doing, and what kind of services are given to the tourists, and what are the efforts made. So about those, right now, the people working in this region is not necessarily well trained. Demand and the supply of the human resources, the balance is not secured yet. So education becomes to be very important. For example, 90% of them are highly educated, or they are necessary to be educated in the tourism, but not sufficient. And this is a service industry, and if you are employed, and you have to work longer hours. And the talented people are necessary, and we have to generate well-trained workers into the industry. So the new knowledges and new skills were non-existent in the past. In the conventional world, some talents and skills were necessary, but in the tourism industry, those are not sufficient. In the tourism industry, the laborers necessary. They directly encounter the customers, tourists, and is it enough if they just graduated from universities? It's not sufficient. The trainings are necessary. For example, 1 out of 10 companies they say there is no appropriate the workers available, they say. So there are gaps, demand and supply of the laborers. So the income is limited in the tourism industry. Argentina, especially Mexico, are most problematic. For example, the one person leave the company and you cannot find out the replacement so easily. Immediately after the graduation of the school, they are not ready to work. The tourism industry, tourism sector, you require many new knowledges and technologies. And this makes the situation more complicated. The companies cannot find the suitable laborers, and you have to hire the less skilled personnel. And if the one person leave the job, leave the company, it's very difficult to find the replacement. So the demand level is very high among the professionals. The 10% of them are the workers with the titles, but other workers are sometimes the not regular positions. And the professionals, and they want to create their own careers, and they need the trainings and education. So we have to provide those type of education trainings. And labor industry, education industry, we have to collaborate each other. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Madeline, so much for great, insightful ideas. I'm really admire how all panelists adhere to the time allocated for all of them, so that we want to turn to you for questions after the last but not least speaker, Mr. Stefano, who will share with us very interesting work about transnational routes and how this works to support collaboration, partnerships, and better communication. Thank you, Mr. Stefano.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very grateful to UNWTO and to UNESCO and to the governor of Japan and the city of Kyoto for the invitation. It gives me an opportunity to introduce to you the program that the Council of Europe launched on cultural routes, which we think is an interesting approach that may bring some answers to some of the challenges in the field of cultural tourism of today. In particular, in order to strengthen capacity for sustainable development of cultural tourism. Cultural routes are a simple but very powerful concept that has been tested successfully by the Council of Europe over the years. Simple because the idea is to connect cultures and heritage, both at local, national, and transnational level, but very powerful because by connecting, by sharing, by creating a space, a transnational space of cultural heritage, the capacity of the local level is enhanced, the visibility is enhanced, the communication and the tourism outreach is also powerfully projected to a much wider audience. We, in the Council of Europe, started with a simple concept. The idea over 30 years ago was to promote and preserve European cultural heritage in a way to provide a message to Europeans that they share history, traditions, they share a culture and heritage. Each European with its own identity, diversity, but also with a shared history. And the idea of cultural roots is really to create a bridge between communities, both in terms of tangible and intangible heritage, celebrating the exchanges of the cultures and the tradition that have shared and that shaped the European landscape. Today we have a variety of cultural roots that have been certified by the organization in different fields, thematically, from the arts to architecture, from historic religious heritage to landscape, but always with a transnational perspective in mind. And if I can just tell you what the Council of Europe is an international organization established 70 years ago, the most European, if I may, because it really includes all Council of Europe, European countries spreading across the continent. And also creating ties with the broader Euro-Mediterranean area, but not only, also in Latin America and in Asia. Japan is an observer to the Council of Europe since 1996. The idea of cultural roots is simple. I wanted to give you some examples here to show you how the networks develop. These are heritage sites, both local and in a transnational perspective. At least 3 countries have to be federated around a cultural route. I provided you 3 examples. One is a linear route, the Santiago de Compostela Pilgrims route, and the 2 others are reticular networks of cities and heritage sites. The beauty of the program is that these networks are really legal entities. They are structures. They are associations or federations of associations that link mostly local and regional authorities, but also cultural heritage sites, monuments, museums, and also universities and cultural centers. The idea is to connect, but also to share experiences and to create a common global, transnational program of activities that provides visibility to all the sites. And in our view, this really answers some of the challenges that cultural tourism faces today. First of all, because it combines both culture and tourism, so there is the heritage preservation, but also the access for tourism purposes. It answers to the need and the wish of travelers to experience authentic sites. Most of the sites of the cultural routes are local, off the beaten track, so to speak, in rural areas with beautiful heritage, but less known destinations. This therefore answers some of the challenges of over tourism, linking smaller sites, but creates also a network of tourism destinations, and therefore through the exchanges that these sites have through capacity building programs, this creates a visibility that is enhanced for all of them. There is also the response to sustainability issues, because this is a type of cultural tourism that is slow by definition, accessible, usually low impact, based on itineraries that can be walked or can be hiked or cycled or by public transportation. It also answers the challenge of sustainability in terms of seasonality and extended stay, the decentralization of tourism flows, because it brings travelers along a path and therefore outside major city centers. And one aspect that is very important, and we'll come back to that for capacity building purposes, is the engagement of the local communities, because each small destination participates in this network of activities. Each cultural route is therefore a network of sites, and the network of sites is based on an association of cities that work together in these 5 fields of action in order to provide tourists with a variety of cultural tourism activities in the field of enhancement of the history and memory of the place, but also in terms of artistic practice, in musical performances, arts and crafts, local goods that are produced at the local level, and also cultural tourism traveling along the cultural route through trips and planned activities. So in a nutshell, it's a program that provides a variety of ways of sharing knowledge. The cultural routes are not only cultural destinations, they are structures that cooperate, all the members, through associations, through federation of associations with their own membership, and there is a variety of tools from trainings that are done at the European level through the Council of Europe, but also trainings and capacity buildings that are done at the routes level by each and every cultural route, also through digital applications that are also used for traveling along the routes. And so the 38 cultural routes are a way to enjoy European cultural heritage, a way to diversify the tourism offers in a way that is sustainable, but also that provides visibility to many countries, because a cultural route, by definition, is composed by cultural sites of at least 3 European countries, but usually it's more than those, in a way that provides diversity, but also shared history and shared heritage. Thank you very much.
ワクワクするような経験を語られました。文化のルーツを探る。そしてさまざまなそういった方面の製品がパッケージ化され、オペレーター
local communities, and meantime you offer local communities and service providers the capacity building and training needed. All right, so we have now almost half an hour for you to listen to you. So who would like to start? And feel free to ask any one of the panelists. Introduce yourself, please, and keep your question short. Yes. The mic there, please.
Good morning. Jens Trainhardt with the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office. I have a question for Stefano. A very interesting presentation. I was wondering, when you build the capacity and you work with your stakeholders, you mentioned various tools and applications. Are you also able to track visitor flow when actually travelers are going through the routes and passing different countries and also interacting with different businesses and experiences?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. The answer is yes for many cultural routes. The answer is sometimes it's difficult because of the nature of the cultures that are these transnational networks. But the short answer is there are a number of tools developed at local level. The classic indicators of tourism offices that we collect. There are also tools that the cultural routes themselves produce. These are passports with indication of different sites visited, and therefore by registering, going through the destinations and getting the stamp on the passport along the route, local authorities collect statistics. These are also collected at hotel accommodation level. Some city centers give these passports and therefore record number of visitors. There's a famous example that is the Santiago de Compostela pilgrims route. They give a certificate at the end of the itinerary. That's also a way to record number of visitors. So there is a variety of ways, and also the short answer is there's an upward trend of this kind of cultural tourism. We see an indication that in Europe, we can say that this kind of cultural tourism is on the rise. This interest in traveling along routes. 38 routes certified by the Council of Europe, but many more exist in European countries. So it's a very, let's say, important phenomenon today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano. Until I see the next hand, a follow-up question, Stefano. So have you observed that, okay, you establish the routes, you know the assets, endowments, diversification, but have you observed a case where capacity building increase networks, increase collaboration and partnership transnationally?
Oh, absolutely. I think that is one of the keys. Every time a small destination joins a transnational route, there is a variety of opportunities for capacity building. Each route organizes trainings, for example, both at European level but also at national level. And I can give an example. The Via Francigena is this trail that goes from England to Rome. It's a pilgrimage originally a site, and now they are training all the new members at local level to create, let's say, opportunities to develop the model at city level. So every time a new city integrates the network, there is both the local capacity building that is done, but also each, let's say, network member enjoys an access to the way that tourism is developed by other members of the network at European level. So the capacity building is really enhanced by being part of a European network. Opportunities that these networks members would not have if they were just doing their promotion alone. Therefore, the visibility and also the communication is greatly enhanced because a small destination becomes visible at European level just because it became a member of a European network.
Thanks a lot, Stefano. We have hand there, please. Gentleman. François, is that you?
Thank you. François Bédard from the Center of Excellence for Destination. My question is for Madeleine. It's regarding the working condition in the tourism industry. Sometimes it's very difficult to compete with other industries. So what type of solution do you see to make the working condition more attractive and then to make sure that we will have the people to serve the tourism industry in the future?
Muchas gracias por la pregunta. En realidad, la solución está en el trabajo conjunto entre sectores.
Of course. Well, the public sector and also the private sector, the employment in mostly created in the private sector, and because of this, I think it is necessary that we have to make effort every year. And what kinds of the capacities are required, and under what condition are we able to work, and so that if the capacity is not able to be built according to the requirement, I think their wage will be dropped. If he is capable enough, the wage increase and contributing to the tourism, and his knowledge and the skill can be utilized for the tourism promotion. So we are tied with the academy and also with the private sector for capacity building. And one more thing is that you shouldn't work in an informal sector. For example, in summer or in winter, according to the season, there is a kind of informal temporary employment. Some are hired there and easy to quit turn away. So the temporary and official employment also is necessary, I know, but for regular employment, there should be a kind of a continuous opportunity for continuous employment that would enhance the quality of the work, and also the quality of the tourism to the visitor will be enhanced. Of course, in case of Latin America, there are many situations, but well, by enhancing the capacity of the personnel, we'd like to increase the quality of the tourism. For example, ceviche is famous, but where the food materials are coming for ceviche, well, the personnel who are able to explain enough to the visitor will increase the quality of the tour, and the satisfaction on the part of a visitor will increase. So the knowledge about the cooking, knowledge about the food must be well possessed by those tourism staffs, and I think the informal sector can be minimized by that. Yes. For this question, well, there are 2 points. As Madeline has explained, one is a point regarding the service, hotel, or the hotel staff, and the cleaning staff, of course, and also the chef, cooking staff. Well, there are many occupations. And I think our labor, the working force is necessary. And then how we are able to get into the workplace of each country, in what way? So for the creative industry, yes, I have explained about that. But well, not the tourism sector itself, but there are some other industry developed in the periphery of the tourism, and there are many of them. For example, the visitor in some destination, and we need to attend them for 24 hours as a creative industry.
Y aquí aparecen una enorme cantidad de nuevas profesiones.
So if the tourist want to do something, he can obtain different information from different sources. So service industry is the only area, the restaurant and hotels. But in the future, the tourism industry involves the creative industries in the peripheries. So searching the many different experiences, and those the new industry will be brought about in the peripheries. So on top of the existing conventional the businesses and industries, there are the new industries coming out.
Oh, wow. Suddenly I see a flood of hands. Here's a gentleman here, please.
Thank you. My name is Ali Jaho. I'm international delegate for Monson, Sion of Jerusalem, and Colombia either, Hotel Las Islas, and Baru. My question for all of you, from Mrs. Maria Peru, Maria Madeleine, and Xavier either, what are you doing for strengthening the local tourist economy? Because this is the key for the future. We all the time we are thinking how we can catch the attention for internationals, and the international welcome for our country. But we have in our countries the real population that we can live on the minimum $1 by day, and we can strengthen that local economy, and we don't need to spend a lot of money, but at the same time the resource for the local people. This is the big problem. Maybe have the Barcelona and other big city spend all the local resource for the international, but what happened with the locals? I think so. This is the future, the key for the countries, how we can develop the local tourist economy, because we have the people here into our countries. Okay. This is my subject, my key, and at the same time, what are you doing to avoid this, the international, and more to concentrate with the locals? What are you doing for that?
Thank you. You pose the question to everyone, so that will take a lot of time, but I'm not going to give the floor to everyone. So I will just turn, Xavier, it seems you are ready to answer, and then Madeleine, and then Maria. But very short, please.
Well, that theme is very important. For example, there are parts of the population in Europe, for example, the cost and the profit and the balance between the two is important. In Barcelona, the tourist percentages are reported. And what is the revenue onto that particular city, and those are statistically reported, calculated. And we hope the UNESCO to also pay attention to this aspect. This is a legal aspect. The laws are enacted in each country, so the rules and the regulations are implemented by the country. But sometimes across the border lines, there are the activities taking place. So some legal systems overcoming that is important. In terms of the tourism, we have to think about some integrated or overall the regulation and legal systems. Not only in each country, but also in each local city, maybe we have to also give the authorities, for example, over tourism, and the local communities are badly impacted. So the problems are resolved in each local area. Let me respond. For example, in Peru, around 5 million people coming from abroad, but there are so many domestic tourists also. So they not only visit the major cities, but they also visit minor venues, sites, very special gastronomy they want to enjoy. So domestic tourists traveling around. And Javier also mentioned about the local things and the local problems to be reflected. So the tourists go down to the local community and minor cities. And the real situation is only fully understood by the local community people. So tourism-related gastronomies and cuisines are newly developed. And that situation is only understood by the local residents. So not only in nation level, locally we have to transmit the information about the real needs and the real supplies ready. So not only in Peru, we have to work on the Latin America as a whole. And the small-scale businesses, if we want to start, there are some subsidy systems by some Latin American countries in the local cities, and tourism is there. And if they can contribute to the local economy, the necessary capitals are there. So we have to pay attention to that.
So I think, as was already said by all the speakers here, all the panelists, I think Local communities are the ones who have the power to change things, right? So change lies in the local community, in local authorities. They can drive economic growth for their area. They're the ones best equipped to promote local culture and offerings and kind of shift the tourism offering in a way that it best benefits their community and their needs. So, and I think that when you add technology and digital skills and digital platforms there, I think there the result can be transformative. And maybe I can talk a little bit about the example of Santorini. So Santorini is an island that you may well know it's quite overcrowded in the summer. This limits employment opportunities to highly seasonal ones, as was mentioned in the previous question, so that's an issue. It offers suboptimal experience for the travelers, and it puts it's a problem for the natural resources, for the environment of the island. So there, the municipality of Santorini and the local community launched an initiative called Santorini the One all year round. And the purpose of this initiative is to extend the tourism season, to bring more people in the winter, shift part of the arrivals from the summer more to the winter. And so we really liked this initiative and we wanted to support it. So what we did is that two of the trainers of the program that we ran, which I mentioned before, they moved to the island literally for a year, for the winter of 2017. And there they offered trainings, free trainings and consultations, sitting one-on-one with the businesses that wanted to stay open in the winter and helping them to promote their offerings of season, even like helping them to create virtual tours of the interior of their business and upload it on Street View so people can see how unique and beautiful and special these businesses are. And we trained 900 businesses this way, and one out of two businesses after the training told us that the web has been helping them to grow their tourism season. So I think connecting the power of the community with technology can be really powerful. This way.
Thanks a lot, Maria. I saw a few hands in the back. Let's take a few questions from the back there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the very interesting discussions. I'm Valentina Montalto from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And I wanted to touch upon one of the many interesting topics that have been put forward during this discussion, which is the relation between tourism and creative industries. I think there is a lot of potential there. There are certain sectors within the creative industries that are already very well developed in terms of relation with tourism, such as the film industry, the cinema, but probably there is much more there to be developed in terms of partnership with visual arts and designers and other creative skills. And I was wondering whether you have observed any successful cooperations in this sense, in your example, especially in the cultural roots, for instance, but also in Barcelona, and whether there are active programs also to better connect the creative sectors on the one end and the tourism sector on the other. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to expand on this question a little bit, and especially to Mr. Matsuura. You mentioned the overarching umbrella of creative industries. You mentioned UNESCO network of creative cities and send us and give us a reminder about new culture. And you give the example of gastronomy, fashion design, costume, and so on. So what adaptation, so that's a question to both of you now, Xavier and Mr. Matsuura, what adaptation we need to do in our education system, in our capacity building to respond to this new agenda? Thank you.
I said in my initial presentation, it is important to preserve cultural heritage inherited from our ancestors. But it is also important, and perhaps more important, to create new cultures based on such cultural heritage. So there are two pillars. But with regard to the second pillar, I said, when I was Director General of UNESCO, I created what is called an international network of creative cities in cooperation with major cities in Europe, in UK, in France, in other parts of Europe, because I was convinced to create new industries, it's important for an international organization like UNESCO to establish structural collaboration with major cities. And unfortunately, it didn't attract much attention outside Europe. Then it started attracting attention in other parts of the world, including Japan. Now we have more than 100. There are 7 areas. You mentioned gastronomy, art, literature, etc. And it is also very important young people who go to school learn how to create new cultures in the context of art. For instance, in the case of Japan, we are now putting emphasis on traditional calligraphy. Japanese calligraphy, which calligraphy was created in China, but it was brought to Japan. When I was a young child, it was very popular in Japan, but gradually it began to lose attention on the part of young people. Now it's revived. So it's important in the school system or in the educational system, they focus on new cultural expressions. In the case of Japan, calligraphy is one example. It applies to other countries in other areas. Once a young child, a young student learns something like that, he or she will continue after graduating from school. So it is very important to do 2 things simultaneously: preserving cultural heritage and creating new arts based on such cultural heritage. They must learn them at school, but they must continue after they have graduated from university. And also it's important for them to have interchange with other parts of people in the same country, but also with people from other countries. In this way, we will have a much better way of developing these 2 important elements for humanity.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Matsura. Xavier, you want to add something to the specific question?
Yes, indeed. In my thought, this is a sort of resume. That means we are trying to develop the new curriculum. That's what we have to. That's the message jointly making. New engineers who are inspiring us or towards the future. There are good thinkers for the future. Those should be educated, and that should be transnational level. Spain is one country. Not only Spain, but in Europe, there are lots of conflicts or disputes still today. Those disputes exist, but in private sector, which culture is important, that should be staged. On the governmental level, that should be identified to be the important one. But in the private sector, there is another dimension. But that barrier should be removed. Digitalized era, that is, the private and the public should be joint partners. That should be the digitalized culture. Then what's important? Then education, that's important. That means that how traditional culture and tourism that we are currently thinking of, or digital technology, and those should be connected into the future further. Then what kind of education required? We are not living in the local, we are living in the global.
We had today, and debate and discussion was very rich and varied. And I really appreciate all of you as audience, and appreciate the efforts and presentations made by all panelists and adherents to time and taking questions from the audience. I think We learned today five very important points. Number one, the very strong message from Mr. Matsura that capacity building shouldn't be business as usual. There are new initiatives now. It's lifelong learning. And he gave examples of the UNESCO business schools and other initiatives under the UNESCO conventions that can be the focus of learning. We learned from Ms. Maria Fonta amazing experiences about sharing economy and how disruptive technology can be at the service of local communities. If we want to do it at the service of local communities, the technology is there. And she gave very strong examples of how local communities doubled or tripled their local income thanks to using technology. But also the corporate role, and that's a very important reminder to all of us. We learned it from Xavier, amazing experience about not only about the creative industries, what are they, how can they benefit local community, but how they can play a role in diversifying tourism products and dispersing and redistributing tourists throughout the city, not just for the sake of managing resources and reduce crowdness, but more importantly is to disperse the benefits come with tourists throughout the city, throughout the community, throughout everyone who has skill, endowment, tangible or intangible. And that's why the support of the creative industries. We learned a lot from Madeleine about this paradigm shift, which she called new destinations plus new demands equal demands for quality. What a challenging task, because I think all of us, our biggest challenge is the new destinations and what quality, what capacity building can be offered. And you give us a very good menu of actions that we can follow. And the last one, Stefano, the amazing and outstanding cultural roots. And it's again to connect the less explored destinations to the tourism itinerary and put them in the tourism map. And with this comes the benefits to populations in remote locations, but in places with endowment, natural, cultural, and historical, as you mentioned. But also with this, the capacity building that can come to them and what kind of capacity building can be provided along these routes to enhance partnership and collaboration transnationally. So by this, I would like to give a big hand of applause to our panelists. I would like to give even bigger hand of applause to you. And since this is the last session, I would like on behalf of all moderators and speakers to thank UNWTO, well done, UNESCO, and most warm word of thanks to our host, Japan, Government of Japan, and the wonderful Kyoto. Come visit Kyoto. Thank you.